Welcome everyone to the Street Scene Power Hour. And if you're wondering what that is obviously Rick and I are from Street Scene. Hope you're well. And, Larry Ward from Two Wheel Power Hour for My Heart is going to join us for Street Scene Power Hour. So
welcome, Larry.
Hey, thanks everybody. And yeah, you're right. The Two Wheel Power Hour is on hiatus right now. We're looking to bring it back in March as we get ready for Daytona. But even though it's January, there's still an awful lot going on. Right now, when I get to the end of January, I really look forward to going to the International Motorcycle Show. It's called the Progressive International Motorcycle Show, and it normally takes place at the Cleveland IX Center. But due to COVID and all the things that have gone on in 2020, the IX Center has been shut down because of not being able to create enough social distancing to have large events there. So the Progressive Motorcycle Show is now called the IMS Outdoors. And the good thing is during the summer of 2021 through some of the various bigger cities like New York, Los Angeles, Denver, but not Cleveland, they're going to have an outdoor show. The nearest one to us will be in Pennsylvania in Hershey Park, and it'll be September 10th through the 12th. So that'll be kind of good if you're looking for somewhere to go. We'll get more information as our shows progress, but we'll tell you a little bit about that. But I think one of the things that everybody that's a motorcyclist will be interested in is the National Packard Museum every year, right around January the 9th, hosts the motorcycle exhibit, which I've been pleased to have been a part of the last couple of years. And the exhibit has been pushed back due to COVID to opening on February the 6th. This year's theme is called Roll Your Own. So I expect a lot of hippies to show up thinking they're going to be out there rolling their own with a bong and stuff.
Roll your own. I was thinking, I'll bring my Volkswagen van out there.
Yeah. So basically it's Roll Your Own is about building your own bike. A lot of throwback stuff, and they've got over 30 motorcycles that are going to be on display February the 6th. And I think tickets are $8 for adults. You can spend couple hours there just going through. It's a gem in the valley right over here in Warren, Ohio. And hopefully we'll get a good turnout. And it's all starting February 6th. And that exhibit will run through May the 22nd. So I hope, and actually it's the 21st edition of the motorcycle show. I want to thank a guy like Bruce Williams who began it all 20 some years ago. And like I said, myself, Bob Wenzel, Ted Guthrie, Larry Smith, and a host of others were able to continue it and kind of build it up a little bit more in the last couple of years. So we look forward to this being a fun kind of an event.
Go ahead, Rick. Sorry about that.
Don't forget, when you first enter, there was a video Greg and I did. We interviewed Bruce Williams there. It's about a 15-minute video at the Packard. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll run during the Packard show.
Mm-hmm.
Packard, the Packard Museum was nice enough to invite us out to record it with Bruce. And boy, what a knowledgeable guy Bruce.
Oh my God,
Larry can attest to.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how you'd remember all that stuff as much as
we were talking basically about his NSU, right? That old NSU he had. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's a fabulous. He's a old-time bike builder. He's restoring a bike that you really can't get much parts for. So you got to take the pieces that are broke and try and put them together and take it to what we call a job shop, a machinist shop, and have them machine parts and stuff like that. So, he's knee deep into getting close to restoring this and this bike he's working on. But I think if everybody gets out to the Packard, I think you're really going to enjoy the exhibit this year. And it's kind of a different twist. This Roll Your Own is a lot of guys that take bikes and chop them, customize them, this and that, make them personalized. And that's really what we look at is even bikes that I ride today, I'll change the seats, the handlebars, the grips, or this or that, so that it fits me and it's personalized to me and it looks good for me. So, I think that's what the guys have done here. And I think everybody's really going to enjoy it. And I can't thank the street scene enough for the last couple of years really promoting the Packard and the motorcycle exhibit.
Well, that's a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, and you know what? Rick and I, we've gone out there quite a few times to, to record a show, and the unique stuff, the old Indian motors, the old off-brand motors that you don't see, the parts, the bikes, it's something. And again, I'm always leaning towards the car end of it, but going out there, I just sit there and now just look forward to it every year and drool when you go out and see some of this stuff. And it's like, man, I can't wait to go out there. If you haven't been out to the Packard Museum to see the bike show, or even the Packard Museum itself, it is something you can't miss. So, that's something you've got to go see. And it's so close. It's right in our backyard. It's right in the woods.
Yeah, it sure is. And some of those Packards are beautiful too,
Oh, yeah.
When you get done looking at the motorcycles, go check out the Packards. Wow.
I like some of the newer old Packards. Like they have a Caribbean model. They call it the Caribbean. Of course, it's an off-white with a like an orangish flare on the sides, and it's convertible. But when you look at those old Packards, you realize what craftsmanship was all about, and the fact that you really could put the entire family in a car and be safe and very, very comfortable. Huge interiors in these cars.
The style. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, I mean, just the fit and finish on this Packard from the factory. And remember setting, you set a nickel up on its end on the motor and you start it and it runs and it doesn't even move the nickel. Just the quality they put into this car as compared to a Model T or something back in that era, or even a Model 8 Ford is just, it's far and above. And
I like the styling and the designing of it all, boy. They had some craftsmen back then, Beautiful stuff.
Tipping back to the motorcycles, Larry, something that I've gotten in, again, I didn't get into motorcycles until I really started doing taping street scene, was the Indians. I am just drool over the old Indians.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. And,
you talking about the newer models or the old ones?
The old Indians. I still remember we saw one out, Rick, down at Quaker Steak and Lube. It was 50. Remember, was it a 50 Indian?
Yep.
I wanted to take that home so bad.
Even the new ones are beautiful too. They got them all decked out. They're a piece of art there, I'll tell you.
You get some of those old Indians, you might have to punch upwards of 25 grand for one that's nice, But they were the forerunners of the full valance fenders. And in fact, today, when you get to their big cruiser bikes, they have those full fenders like the old ones before. I always liked that little lit up Indian ornament on the front of the fender. I mean, yeah. And I'll tell you what, the Indians of today, through Polaris and that big group, they've got a lot of money. And it's one of the things, if you remember, they first started when they brought things back with Victory, and Victory was a quality motorcycle, and it had quality components, but its price point was so close to a Harley Davidson that what hurt that is that the sales weren't very good. And when you bought the bike, the resale wasn't very good at all. But almost immediately when they brought the Indian back and created the bottle cap engine, which was a proprietary engine, and now distinctively, instead of using an S&S power plant, which is an offshoot of a Harley Davidson, once they created their own power plant, now they have something. Now it's something that people can buy in as a unique, it's not a wannabe Harley, it's an Indian. And there's an awful lot of people that have bought into that concept.
The Victory, they stopped making that now?
I'm sorry?
Did they stop making the Victory?
Oh, yeah, a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. But they had a nice little run to it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, they sold more Indians in their first year of reintroducing than they did in all of the production of Victory.
Now, what else? Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you look at those Indian models, you look at what they've done. They've not only brought out a touring bike, but in the old days of what Harley Davidson did to make them winners was, we're going to race on Sunday and we're going to sell them on Monday. Indian has dominated flat track racing. And one of the reasons is that the Indian motorcycle, they were using the Scout 750, which is a modern fuel injected modern motor. Whereas Harley Davidson was going out with their 750 SG, which was a new motor, but not one that was made for racing. And it took several years, 3 years, I think, to finally get that motorcycle onto a podium. And last year, they got onto the podium quite a bit, like third place kind of thing. But at least they were showing good signs of getting this thing to fruition and be a winner. And then Harley Davidson this year decided to change the way they were going to promote racing, and that they would no longer sponsor factory racers, but they would sponsor private racers, individuals, and give them contingency money for placing high. The sad thing is that you look at the old XR750s, which were the old push rod iron head that dominated the Springfield Mile, and that those bikes are still very, very competitive from the 60s and 70s. I think it was 2 years ago, we had a whole, maybe it was a year ago, we out at the Packard, we must have had 4 of those. And in fact, George Roeder himself from Roeder Harley Davidson family brought out his number 1 racing bike and put it on display there for a couple of months. So, it's sad to see Harley put that money into that to get that motorcycle to where it could be competitive and then pull the plug.
Where are they making Harleys at now? Did they move them overseas? They were supposed to.
It's like everything else. There is a supply chain issue there, but a Harley Davidson isn't really American made in terms of all of the bike. I think the frame and the motor are either built or assembled here, but when you look at the electronics, that I think comes from Italy, and you look at the forks, those come from Japan. They're Showa, they're quality. But, I still have an old 1995 Sportster, and I tear it apart occasionally, and I marvel at how well built the thing is and how super duty it is. Pretty hard to bend one of those things up. You bend one of those up, you're probably in the hospital for a while. But yeah, so going forward, but I'll tell you what, I think everybody, with the fact that the IMS show is not going on, when I get to the end of January, I am a scant 5 weeks away from Daytona, usually like March 9th, somewhere around there. So it's a little bit kind of anticlimactic. I'm feeling a little let down that I'm not going to be at that show, but I'm still coming up next week. I'll be 5 weeks away from going to Daytona.
So they're still going to have Daytona then?
Yeah, but let me tell you, let's go back to last year at Daytona, which has really started the whole thing going backwards for the country and motorcycling. First time in a long time, I didn't ride my bike to Daytona. And that's a real pain in the butt because it's cold. It's sometimes snowing. You got to wear electric gear. You feel like a Pillsbury doughboy all stuffed up in your gear.
That's a heck of a ride, boy. That's how many hours?
955 miles.
Wow.
When I was a kid, I used to do that. Well, when I was a kid, I used to leave at 5 or 6 in the morning, and I'd be in there by 11:30 at night.
You drove the whole way? Oh, when you were a kid.
Larry, you're not a kid anymore.
Hardly. But so last year, Bob Hotchkiss, who was my former market president here, along with Leo Duprilli from Duprilli Insurance, they had a big 40-foot trailer, and they were taking their bikes down, and they had room. So I put my bike in there, and I decided to fly. Well, at the time I decided to fly, it was like the first week of March, and all of a sudden things were starting to be more than just the whispers about the COVID virus. So I get to the airport, and I had to fly out of Cleveland, which I normally fly out of Pittsburgh. So it's kind of a little lost in that. But I remember wearing gloves, not trying to touch anything, just trying to be super safe. And then flying down was kind of strange and eerie because everybody was trying to space out. I actually spent an extra $40 and got to move up into a section that only had 2 seats rather than 3. Yeah. So I get there, everything's pretty good. I mean, Florida's pretty open, everybody's pretty happy. And then along comes Friday, which starts the big hooly-bully. I mean, it's like Valhalla for a biker, Friday on Main Street. Mm-hmm. Friday and Saturday, you park the bike, you walk up and down, you look at the girls, you're drinking, you're having fun. And
look
all
at more girls.
Yeah, the one selling the Girl Scout candy.
Yeah. I was down there a couple of years ago, and I was on Larry's show there when I went down. It was an experience.
Because they go, So you can put me on the radio. Sure, babe. Yeah. So anyways, Friday at 2:00, I get this phone call because I'm part of the media and I always cover the Daytona 200. Well, the night before that on Friday night is the TT race, which is inside the speedway, and they create a track. And a TT is different than flat track. In other words, you go around circles, but then you have to do jumps. And that involves changing things, and especially with your chain, getting it tensioned properly so it doesn't come off and all that. So 2:00 in the afternoon, I get a call and they said they're canceling the Daytona 200. Now, the Daytona 200 has been going on since the late 40s, and it raced on the sand out on the beach.
Huge announcement on that.
Oh, and so I'm like, are you kidding? They said, yeah, you better get downtown because they're pulling all of the vendor permits. And I'm like, get out. And you know what? I go downtown, I wheel up onto Main Street, and I start looking, and all of the people that had set up, if you weren't a year-round merchant, they pulled your permit. And so those people that set up huge displays, the beer, the this, that, the other, all these clothing, they're all tearing down. Ouch. And it was spooky as hell. And then I was like, well, what's going on? So by the time we got to Saturday, they canceled the TT race. They canceled the 200. All the pros are heading home. And I know, I'm like, holy crap, this is serious.
Yeah, it still is serious.
And all I can remember is on my cell phone in February, some guy posting an early warning like, hey, I don't know what's going on in this little place called Wuhan, China, but they're building in 5 days a huge hospital in 5 days. And over a period of 5 days, this guy showed all these pictures from the satellite. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Wonder what's going on over there. Well, little did I know we were going to find out. Make a long story short, there was no Daytona.
Yeah.
Now, up at Bruce Roethlismeyer's Daytona Destination Daytona, they did still have that. And that guy has a lot of influence, multi-billion-dollar operation. So that seemed, I went up there for a little bit. It was okay. But you could see where they were starting to hammer everything. And so there was nothing on Saturday night downtown, very little. And what there was, I teamed up with a couple of Motorcycle Sport Touring Association members. That's MSTA, one of the clubs I belong to. And we ended up going to a bar down in Ponce Inlet where I think the guys from the Chosen Few Motorcycle Club, they felt the same way. So we're all just kind of partying, sitting down there, and they were good group and had a lot of fun and chatted with some of them. But I went to 2 events last year. One was called the Red River Gorge Ride in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. And the other one was the ride down to Marietta, Ohio, what we call the flyby weekend. And both of them were really well attended. Everybody social distance. Everybody wore a mask when we were inside. But I could tell you, I went to a truck and tractor pull put on by Cope Farm Equipment earlier in the summer. And because there was nothing going on, they literally had 10,000 people. It was a huge thing. I mean, they're giving away 10 grand. But I sensed that people were so starved to have something to do that if you were able to get something on, which brings me to this year. I fully expect, I have not heard anything different. I'm in contact with the Daytona International Speedway. Everything is still on go. I just got off a phone call with my friend who has already gone down. He's rich beyond belief and retired when he was 52. I hate him so much.
Really?
He's already down in Daytona. And I go, well, how's the weather down there? And he goes, well, he lives in a gated community in Canfield, so he's got these little cameras. And he goes, let me tell you. He said, oh, you know what? Oh, you do have some sunshine up there. I'm looking at out. And he goes,
it's not real.
No.
But he goes, I got to tell you, you just hate it if I told you how nice it was down here right now. So he's down there until he decides to come home in late March. I'll be joining him down there probably around the 9th or 10th of March. So I fully expect the Daytona to go on. And I think as we go forward, I've already noticed that I don't want to get talking politics, but all of a sudden now New York wants to open up everything when they wanted to close everything. And we're escalating the vaccine and how to get it out to people. So I think the more people that have it and don't have any bad reactions to it, the more the country is going to be open and the more we're going to be able to. I feel by May, we're going to have a lot of these things under control. I'm planning a big year. I'm going to Montana for a big BMW rally. I'm going to crisscross the country this year in my final giant hurrah.
Yeah, it looks like, again, it looks like people are moving forward with these shows and that.
Sure.
I wanted to mention, if you've got any questions, email us at armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com. Larry will get, we got questions. We can take lots of questions for Larry, me, or Rick on any of these shows, or even just to tell you what your ride is. So it's armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com. We'll take all the emails, and it looks like we're starting to move forward, and I hope COVID's under control, because we got some shows moving forward. I wanted to ask Larry real quick, what else can we see at the Packard Museum this year? What do you got coming?
Well, the Packard usually celebrates with coffee in the morning, once a month. When the weather breaks, they'll have car clubs cruising through, and
they call it about cars and coffee, I think, right?
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I happen to be a Corvette owner and a Mustang owner, and I kind of like them both. But I belong to the Mahoning Valley Corvette Club, which is a charter member of what we call the NCCC, National Council of Corvette Clubs. And if you're a car enthusiast, this year, the National Convention is going to be held in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm on the convention committee. That means that hundreds, 500, 600, 700 people, maybe 1,000 Corvettes will show up June 13th through the 16th. And they'll have an opportunity at the Cleveland Convention to do many things. Some of them will be touring the Amish country. Some of the tours could be 250 miles in length. So they'll take an entire day or day and a half, overnighter. Some of the tours will go to the Hard Rock Museum up there, the Gateway Clipper, things like that. But if you like to do more than just show, and there'll be car shows throughout the entire week, but if you like to do a little bit more than sit beside your car like I do, then Nelson Ledges will be hosting with the National Corvette Convention track days. So you'll be able to put your Corvette out there and whoop it up and have some fun. Dragway 42 will be hosting the drag racing if you so desire to not only compete in that, but there are national records for the Corvettes that, of course, if you want to try for one of those national marks, you can. And then, of course, my favorite, because it's a little less wear and tear, and you're not going 140 miles an hour, but autocrossing. Yeah. And there'll be autocrossing at one of these locations, and you'll be able to put your Corvette out on there. So from touring to travel to camaraderie, friendship, car shows, and everything imaginable under the sun for Corvettes. That's coming June 13th through the 16th. It'll be called.
Where's that at? That's at the convention center? Did you say it?
You know what? They haven't, and I probably should have paid attention to that a little bit more. I'm almost meeted out on everything.
I'm not familiar with the convention center at all.
But I'm not sure the exact location of when the indoor exhibit will be, but I believe it is the Cleveland Convention Center. They were some were talking about reopening the IX Center, so I'm not sure if that's in play or not.
Is the convention center in Cleveland or outside of Cleveland?
No, I think it'll be outside of Cleveland in that independent area, somewhere right around there. But I'll get that information.
Yeah.
And again, if anybody has any questions about the National Corvette Convention, just get a hold of Greg at Street Scene, and he'll forward the emails to me, and we'll get those answers for you.
ArmstrongStreetScene@gmail.com if you want to, if you got any questions on that. Larry can get the answers for you. But you know what? One thing I wanted to mention, and Rick had sent me this yesterday, the Top Mountain Motorcycle Museum. Oh, what a horrible, horrible travesty. If you haven't seen
in Austria.
yeah.
Austria,
If you
that's
haven't
correct.
seen the pictures, all these rare motorcycles,
Oh my God.
pieces up in smoke. I mean, it just burned to the
The whole place is made of wood.
Right.
Okay. I guess they didn't have any sprinkler system in it. I'd say, huh? That's what I was reading this morning.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It was a family-owned operation, and the brothers had started acquiring these motorcycles when they were young and continued to build on the display, and it is a shame. Some of them are irreplaceable.
Yeah.
You get a Bra Superior, and there's only, on your hand, that's how many, just a few in the entire world.
They had 230 bikes in there. And this is the way they had them displayed and everything. They had wood tracks set up in there, and they had them displayed on there. There were some cars in there also.
I must have gotten, just so you know, I must have gotten 5 emails on that right away when it happened from guys all over the country.
Yeah.
Far away as California. Hey, Larry, did you know this and did you know that?
Now they determined a cause yet? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything.
No, but if you saw the pictures, it was horrific. There wasn't anything left.
Oh my God, that whole place.
It was like somebody blew it up.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I couldn't. That's a shame to even see something like that, because I remember years ago it was up. Maybe it was at Kinsman. I think you might remember this, Rick. Somebody had a personal car collection up there, a ton of cars, and it burned right to the ground. Up at Kinsman. This was probably 20 years ago, but it just burnt my mind of all those rare cars sitting up there and getting burned. Right, you never know.
You can have insurance, but so what?
Can't replace
The memory of the car or the bike. You just can't. You can't replace it.
No.
Yeah, like some of these bikes, there's like I wrote down a couple of them. There was a 1950 Zenith Super, a 69 NSU. What's that? Super Max, Sport Max. A 30s NSU 500 SSR. There was an Excelsior there, Super X, rare, very rare. A Douglas 90 Plus was there. That's just a few of them. And my God, I saw this museum. One of the TV shows had it on. One of the car shows had it on about a year ago, and I was like, oh my God, look at how beautiful he had it set up and everything. And then all of a sudden you see it burning, and you go, wow. I guess it was way up there in the mountains. That's why they call it Top Mountains Motorcycle Museum.
Probably couldn't get anything to it. You're right.
In Austria. Yeah.
I
Beautiful.
will tell you though, if you guys are interested in seeing a museum that's in the United States, there's one in Iamosa, Iowa, and that's the National Motorcycle Museum. But I had a chance 2 years ago to Albany, New York, to a place called Motopedia. Okay. Motopedia. You guys ought to look it up. It is 2 floors, and it is fantastic. I'll give you an example. Do you guys know what a board track racer was?
Yeah.
We learned that from Bruce Williams. At least
yeah.
Board track race.
That was crazy back then.
Dismemberment for most of the people that raced them.
Okay.
This museum had more original board track racers on display running on the wooden track. I think they had 17 of them, the largest display of board track racers. And I'll show you how different the different themes were. You could walk downstairs, and one of my all-time favorites is a TV show that went from 69 to 70 called Then Came Bronson, starring Michael Parks. Michael became a good friend of mine, and it was on the motorcycle show many times. And there's a huge fan club called TCB, Then Came Bronson, and it was headed up by Billy Gibson, Greg Patnick, and just a whole bunch of really cool guys.
Billy Gibson from ZZ Top.
No.
Okay.
But the neat thing is you could go downstairs and they had an entire display, at least a room and a half, of everything from a bike to murals to hand signed things to just, if you were a fan, it was the right place to be. Then they had a neat thing. I want to say it was a 1965 FLH. I call them bagger bikes. You know, Harley's really cool for having like XYZ, BYU, you know, tons of numbers and names behind them. Well, this particular bike had a gigantic beer keg, one of those aluminum beer kegs on the back on the rack. And I'm like, dude, wherever he's going, I'm going. You know? Turns out it's a highway patrolman's bike, and that made me like, what? So I went over and read the placard on it. Here he set the coast-to-coast record on that FLH back in 1967, I think it was, and they had that bike on display. It had the beer keg was actually the extra fuel tank.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, is that considered drinking and driving or just illegal transportation?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, it must have been pretty rough ride, because when he got out there, he flew home. He didn't even take the bike home. He left it out.
He drank the whole thing on the way down.
But it's called Moto PD.
Home.
Yeah, in Albany, New York. And boy, I'll tell you, if you have time, plan on taking a day or two once you get up there. There's plenty of hotels around that area. But I did a layover there on my bike one day and just toured the whole museum, and then found a hotel that night, and then made my way. You know, you can come up 90 and get home in 5 or 6 hours from New York. So,
okay,
you know, if you're staying with it, you know,
yep.
A blast.
No, I just want to remind everybody, you know, you got any questions for Larry or Rick or me, Armstrong Street Scene at gmail.com. So go ahead, Rick.
Here's one for you. At the Kissimmee Meekum auction this past, I think it was January, it's past last week or so. Yep. Carroll Shelby's 1965 Cobra, his personal car. He had it from 65 until he died in 2012. That sold for almost $6 million, $5.94 million.
Now,
you believe that?
His name tied to that, it would have sold a quarter of that.
Yeah. That was his personal car. Yep.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Do you believe he's been dead that long?
No.
He died in 2012.
It doesn't even seem possible.
No.
Do you know, if you saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari, you saw Matt Damon, who played Carroll Shelby, was taking pills. Yeah, I don't know if you've read the history on Carroll Shelby. And I mean, he was dynamic for the automotive industry.
Oh, sure.
But he was one of the first recipients of a heart transplant. Okay. And that's what eventually took his life, was heart condition. After he had a transplant, he lived a couple of years after that. But fascinating guy. I can remember not only the Shelby Cobras. That's really what he started out with, the AC Cobra.
The AC Cobra, yeah.
And then he moved on into the GT 350 and then the GT 500. And then from there, he decided to leave Ford and he went over to Dodge. And if you remember, they had a little thing called that little square boxy car like a Horizon. They called it a GLH.
It was a Shelby.
Well, that was but I'm going to tell you something about those GLHs. Back then, when they came out, the performance out of those they're ugly. I mean, they're Dodge Omnis, they're Plymouth Horizons, but the performance out of those GLHs they were unprecedented. They kept up with vets on those things. And
do you know why?
Those and you remember the Shelby Daytona Chargers.
Oh, sure.
You know, those, but Shelby had something to do with all that stuff.
Well, that car, the GLH, was a 2.3 liter overhead cam, turbocharged, intercooled. And when you intercool something, that's a game changer, because then it really adds horsepower because of the way the charge is coming into the intake system. It's a lot cooler, means it's a lot denser. You can pack more fuel into it. But that GLH, I often wondered. So I did some history after watching Ford versus Ferrari. And I wondered what GLH stood for, because, you know, you hear of GTO, Gran Turismo Homologado, right? You know what the GLH stood for?
And I heard this once before.
I have no clue.
You're going to have to refresh my memory.
Goes like hell.
That's right.
That's good.
Oh, it did. It was a screamer, man. And they're highly sought after now. They're hard to find.
They're very rare pieces. And again, back in the 80s, when you had no horsepower, and you had the GLH coming out. And even if you remember well, the Chrysler products, they actually had a Hemi 4-cylinder, which was in the 80s, and they were I think they were 2.2 liter Hemi head on a 4-cylinder. They actually put out about 130 horsepower, if I remember right, for a 4-cylinder in the 80s, which, you know, the turbos were terrible. Everything about that generation except for
I hated the 80s.
the Buick GNX,
mid 70s and
the
80s.
epitome of that.
Yeah,
So,
they were ugly, and I just didn't like that air. And they had the EPA stuff on them, and so they cut down the horsepower. Killed it. Yes.
I can remember when I first, you know, I grew up in the 60s and had a ton of GTOs. I raced them, and I called them Tin Indians, and I dragged them. And I had 3 of them. And I had a 67 convertible for like cruising. I had a 68 with the fender headers came out through the fender wells. It was my drag car. And a 69. It was just a really, really nice car until I wrapped it around a tree in Millbury Park one night.
Jeez.
But I'll tell you what, 69, 70, 71 was the last great year. And then you started to get 72, and they started lowering the horsepower. And 73 Roadrunner, I didn't even recognize it.
They got ugly and no horsepower.
You know, I think the 65 Mustang I fell in love with. I just loved. And all my buddies had fastback, hypo 289s. And then the other car that I just loved, and my buddy had one, was a 1965 all black GTO with those Uniroyal red line tires. Had a Hurst 4-speed in it from the factory with the big white shift knob. And man, I'll tell you what, boy, that was, and I'll tell you, we used to race them out on the street, man. I'll tell you where you got to remember back in 69, you know, I was fortunate enough to go to college and got deferred on the draft, but a lot of my buddies were out in Vietnam and coming home for a 30-day leave, and they go get those Z28s, man. The ones that were 302 cubic inch and pumped out 290 horse, but maybe a little bit more. And I'll tell you a little story. On South Avenue, there used to be a little on-ramp, and there was a bar there called the On-Ramp. And right from where you got on that ramp and you headed east, you could mark off a quarter of a mile. It would be a straight line before you hit that first curve. And I'll tell you what, many a guys, and some guys lost their cars. I mean, they'd race. I mean, it was wild, woolly. It was just like the Hollywood Night movie. You'd get out there and you'd race your car. And I'll tell you what, if you had enough balls, you'd put your pink slip up and that would be it.
Well, those days are kind of, you know, people didn't experience it. Again, I grew up in the late 70s and 80s. So we did drag race, but, you know, it's not like it used to be. But you know, it's one of those things where you look back on that, and you tried that now, you get thrown in the clink, you know.
Sure.
Before they used to just run us out of, you know, get out of here, we don't want to see you anymore.
Market Street used to be just like you would be in any small town USA where you had your cars and you're going up and down. You'd hit a stoplight. And I remember I was in my GTO with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. That's been married 46 years. And I can remember coming out of that stoplight and hitting third gear at about 106 mile an hour going by Dunkin'. And I got a fender on that kid with that 302 Boss, you know. But I mean, it's just what it was. But we used to have gas stations when I was growing up. And that's kind of where I learned a little bit. It was good and bad. I was a pretty good baseball player. But by the time my dad got his third gas station, he said, look, I need you to work. And I go, well, like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I need you to work after school. And I go, but Dad, I'm playing football and baseball. And he goes, not anymore. That's just the way it was. But on one side, but we had a car that we raced under the banner of our Sunoco gas station called the Mighty Mite. It was a 1960 Biscayne. If you remember those old Biscaynes, they had rubber floor mats.
I had one.
Bare bones there.
Yes.
6-cylinder stick. And so my girlfriend then had a 62 Bel Air that got smashed. It was out in the street and some drunk guy hit it. So she got her insurance money. I ended up pulling that 283 out and putting it in the 60 Biscayne. I put a old Duntov 097 cam and I put an AFB on it, put a Saginaw fully mesh 3-speed in it, and we went drag racing with that car.
That's probably
Well,
pretty
one,
quick for the time.
yeah, one Halloween night, I don't know what possessed me, but me and my buddy, because everybody was racing and it was a Saturday night and we had open headers. So I go down to my dad's gas station, open up the door. I start that car up with open headers. I back it up. It's lettered up and everything. And I take that dang thing up Market Street and I'm just drag racing it. And I had a blast.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm smiling and laughing. Everything went great until the next day. I put the car in, thought, hey, boy, this is good. I got away with everything. The next day, I'm at the gas station, and my dad comes in, and he goes, hey, so what have you been up to? And I go, oh, nothing. He goes, so what'd you do? I go, when? He goes, well, yesterday. Do anything yesterday? And then I got that, if you've ever been questioned by your dad,
Yeah.
you know where that's
what he's insinuating. Yeah.
You know where it's going.
I don't know whether to just give it up and take a beating or try and see if there's something more. And I go, well, yeah, I mean, I just did the usual things. He goes, oh, really? The usual things. He goes, is the usual things taking out the drag car and racing it up and down Market Street? And I go,
I've been caught.
Yeah.
you know how many of the Youngstown police officers called my house that night because I know them all and they let you go? You could have been pulled over like 6 times.
Yeah.
And he goes, I go, what can I tell you, Dad? It's a great car. I was with my buddy and I just did something stupid. And he goes, we've all done something stupid and we've all had to pay for stupidity. So understand this. So for the next 30 days, you are. And I lived at home. I was only a sophomore in high school and I was living high times at Ridgemont High. It was flat. And I go, but Dad, what, I got a social life here. I got a girlfriend. He goes, not for 30 days. All around the phone.
Took the keys away, huh?
And when you call somebody on the phone back then, they had that party line. So sometimes you could get a hold of them or sometimes you reach somebody else that was on the line. It was like,
my dad used to tell me, he could look me in the face, and I'd try to pull something over on him. It's like, I know what you do because I was once like you. And it's like, that did me in. I just never hit anything from him again.
He knows all the tricks, huh?
Yeah, he knew it. He goes, I was once like you. You can't pull it over on me. You know what? I want to, if you got any questions for Larry, Rick, or me, armstrongstreetscene@gmail.com. I did want to get in, some what's coming up on the car cruise scene. We're planning on doing the Street Scene Car and Custom Bike Show this year.
End of July.
It's
going to be a good one. You got it lined up pretty good.
July 25th. And we had this past year off, so we're going to revamp the whole thing. It's at Austin Town Park this year, July 25th. And we got some big plans coming up for that. So motorcycles, anything goes out there, and you can, come out and enjoy the day. What we're planning on doing and trying to get this to go through, and it looks pretty good so far. After the show ends at 3:00, we're going to have a cruise down from Austin Town Park down to Quaker Steak and Lube, right through Austin Town. So keep that in mind for July 25th. Put that on your calendars.
Dick Frost and the boys will be down there.
Dick Frost is a good, he puts on the Quaker Steak and Lube show
every Sunday. Yeah.
So he does a nice job, and people go after our show down there anyway. So why not make it a formalized cruise down to Quaker Steak and Lube? So
and we have a special band that's going to be there. Are you saying
Vegas?
Okay.
Vegas is going to actually perform down there for us.
Good.
We have the stage down there. Right after that, Thomas John's going to spin the tunes for us.
Sweet.
We'll have. We got the Cub Scouts on board. They're going to sell drinks and that to raise money for them. All this goes to American
Heart Association.
American Heart Association. That's where all our proceeds are going to go for this show. So
maybe we can get Larry to bring one of his rare motorcycles out, huh?
Yep.
Well, actually, it's my buddies that have all the rare stuff. My co-host, Bob Wenzel, has probably he created a company called the Vintage Movement, and they've been doing pretty good in acquiring vintage bikes. And he's got an ace mechanic, Ted Guthrie, who's also been on our show as restoration expert. And Ted does a lot of just fantastic stuff. Him and Kevin Hilliard are probably two that I would say in the area are some of the finest. And, you know, a lot of people use the word, oh, I restored the bike. Well, if you really do restore the bike, like if the bolt that holds the swing arm should have a date code on it or should have a certain marking on it. And when you restore a bike and you're Ted Guthrie or Kevin Hilliard, that's exactly what that bolt in that place will be. If you're just a guy, backyard guy making it look good, then it'll be something from Handyman Hardware, not the original piece. So there's a big difference, and we'll probably in our next couple of shows, we might be able to talk to the guys at the Vintage Movement, and you can see some of the stuff. One of the lost arts out there in both bicycle and motorcycle is wheel building, like spokes. Yeah. And there's 3 cross, 4 cross, but I'm going to tell you what, you have to have the patience of a saint to lace a wheel. It is a lost art because almost all the stuff you buy nowadays aftermarket is going to be spun up by a machine and tensioned by a machine. But you get somebody like Ted Guthrie. I was out there just watching, not saying anything, watching how a guy disassembled a wheel and actually restored the wheel and put the original spokes after they've been replated and put them back in and then trued the wheel. And I'm going to tell you what, a lot of young people don't know how to do that. Wouldn't have, and I don't know how to do it. I tried and I failed miserably because I can't follow the shop manual on it. But we should have a demonstration on how something like that gets done sometime. I think Street Scenes Power Hour is just going to be a blast this year. I think we're going to open up. We're going to go full bore, and people are going to be so nuts about just getting let loose that it's just going to be where we go. It'll be like butt to butt and elbow to elbow.
Yeah, the art of fabrication is kind of taken a wayside. You know, people are used to plugging a computer in and trying to troubleshoot something anymore. But getting people into the fabrication and actually troubleshooting of any type of engine or anything that is a lost art.
Hey, Greg, we're still working on a Street Scene schedule this year, right? We don't have anything down pat. And I think if you guys have any suggestions, you can send them in to us and we can go from there. Yeah, hopefully we can. Yeah. Hopefully we can get some stuff in, you know?
Yeah, you know, we had a schedule set up last year, and I would like to get those back on the schedule again. Yeah. But here's a couple mentions that that I've run across. What I want to do really, Salem Super Cruise, Rick and Larry. Yeah. The Salem Super Cruise is June 10th through 13th. I definitely want to get that one on the schedule. And one that is near and dear to my heart, and it's right over in Newcastle. I grew up in New Wilmington, and we went to this every year. It was back to the 50s. It is back on this year.
That's always a good
3rd, 4th, and 5th. Back to the 50s, I have fond memories of burnouts and, right downtown and just stuff like that when it really, was kind of a all around just everybody's show. So another one's coming up. Rick, you'll remember this. You talk about, going dirt track races, a Rockabilly Ruckus.
Oh, I love that one. That was 2 years. Oh, I love that one.
Larry, have you been to the Rockabilly Ruckus?
I have not.
That was so much fun.
Trumbull County Fairgrounds, August 6th through 8th. That one is not one to miss. We saw the most unique rides down there. You can go out on the dirt track and run your cars. Yeah. And, they had the pinup girls out there.
They're having a fashion show there this year, too.
Fashion show.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I had so much fun. It was so unusual. There was families walking around, kids walking around. It was really cool.
That's
cool.
Coming up August 6th through 8th. And, that's one that is another one. And the one I never got into is a Good Guys Cruise coming up July 9th through 11th.
How about the one in Ravenna? We're planning on doing that one too, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, that's that that's another show.
Mhm.
One of the bigger shows that we've had in the past before we got caught in this COVID was the Greenwood Mahoning Valley Corvette
Mhm.
show.
We've been
We've done that a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago we had over 300. I mean, every space in that front
Mhm.
and back lot were completely full.
almost
That'll-
outgrown that one now.
Right, it'll be June 27th this year,
June
Mhm.
and then
27th.
almost a month later, it'll be the Corvettes at the National Packard Museum, July 31st. So we'll have more information on that, but that's definitely, hopefully, the big invite goes out to street scene, and I know you guys have been a part of it before, so
Mhm.
stop by.
How many
Have
times
some-
we do that, Greg? 2 or 3 times now? I know 2 for
Three.
sure.
Yeah, I know we had 2. I think we did 3.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I'm trying to think, where'd you guys do that before at Greenwood? Where'd you do that show at?
You know what? I've only been a part of it at Greenwood.
And I can't remember, Rick, where did we do that show before? They had it.
I don't know.
That's just slipping my mind. But yeah, if you got any questions for Rick, Larry, or me, Armstrong Street Scene at gmail.com. Send us a picture of your ride. We'll talk about it. Send us
Sure,
some
that's
information.
it.
We always did that.
We'll feature it. We can feature it. We'll do
Yeah,
some
right.
nice.
Yeah, we did the the virtual car cruise on Street Scene. We loved watching, for our Facebook site.
Mhm.
It's Armstrong Street Scene at Facebook.
I had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, we
that was a
did
lot of
that
fun.
when COVID hit, and we got.
I learned a lot researching these cars.
So we got probably about 10 more minutes. We'll wrap this up, but obviously, Larry, you're really involved. David Ed's swap meet's coming up too,
Mhm.
March 6th or
Dave
7th.
and Ed's, they'll have 5 of them throughout the year. The beginning and the end will be at the Canton Fairgrounds, and
Mhm.
in March. I don't have the dates, but March and November are the Canton Fairground ones, and then April, July, and September are the Canfield Fairground ones. And I got to tell you what, the one in Canton is totally different than the one in the Canfield Fairgrounds. So it's good to go to both. But
Is
I
it
go out-
bigger or what? Bigger?
Well, no, not bigger, because the grounds aren't as big that you can go out on,
Mhm.
but it's different.
Okay.
Some of the things that they have are just different. I don't know if it's because of the area or whatnot,
Sure.
but you
Sure.
see, over in Trumbull County at Deerfield Speedway, they will race those little, what do they call those little cars? Micro cars or something. They have motorcycle engines in them, and they hold one person, and they go
Mhm.
like,
Micro sprint cars, are they?
yeah, something
They're
like
not.
that.
They're not the midgets, so now midgets are bigger,
No.
right?
Yeah. But so they'll have a whole display and how to join and do that. Then they'll have a ton of specific parts and stuff. I have changed over my Sportster to LEDs. So I eliminated all the turn signals, and I bought a set of LED lights. They're stripped, and they have 3M adhesive, and you wrap it around the top of the fork tube, and that's your turn signal.
Okay.
And then in the back, I incorporated a tail light that had turn signals built in. So I got rid of those bulby looking things and, did something like that. But it's just so much fun. And then they always got a bunch of ATVs, it seems like, and they got a bunch of mini bikes. And,
Mhm.
I just gravitate to that stuff like right away, And then what I really like is they got a ton of tools. I bought an Allen wrench set. Well, who doesn't want a tool? Just put something in your hand and it feels good. But they
Yeah.
have old
Oh
Allen
God, come on, Larry. We don't want to go down that road, do we?
Yeah. But you know what the thing is, you get an Allen wrench nowadays, the bolster on the Allen wrench, they're all plastic, the
Yeah.
wrenches are metal. Well, I found these ones, and the guy was like charging $1 a piece, and they had all metal bodies, higher quality metal in the Allen wrenches. They're not going to round off and stuff like that. And there's always some really cool vendors there. Now you look at Canfield, and of course we could get the owner of that sometime if you wanted to jump out there. We'd get Corey Ward on. But the neat thing about Canfield is they got a lot of stuff that is more diverse. Like there might be a whole guy that'll have a semi of nothing but brand new tires.
Yeah.
Another guy.
Is there somebody else doing the swap meet now?
No.
Dave and Ed, are they still doing it?
No, Corey
No.
Ward owns all of the Dave and Ed swap meets.
Okay.
Corey Wards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, the one thing about the Canfield swap meet is you got to dig around a little bit and you will find stuff. I think I found more stuff not for my car out there that I've taken home than for my car. You know, you've got, you know, you got home items and remodeling stuff. You know, you can't believe what.
Well, just be glad you don't have a Thunderbird. Nobody can find anything for those.
Especially a 64.
Yeah, we know those. We know those Trailer Queen Thunderbirds.
Trailer Queen Thunderbird.
Oh,
I've never seen Rick's Thunderbird. Come to think of it, at a car show. Have you?
Yeah, it's been there. It's been there a couple times.
The last show that I remember Rick at is we were having to try to figure out how to get his power steering pump again since it blew up on the way there. So,
and I just had it fixed too.
Yeah. But anyway, no, Rick's Thunderbird. Rick, you got a 64.
64, yep.
And it's
with
gorgeous.
the road. It's the
It
Roadster,
is
yeah.
flawless, beautiful car.
Yeah. It's time to move on though. Time to something else. I like to keep them a couple of years and then get something else going on, you know.
Yeah, so
you need a Corvette.
No, you know, I'm not a Corvette guy. The Corvettes I like are out of my range, though. You know, I like the older ones. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, after this, you know, working on these cars, and I've had an 85, an 89, 94, and a 93 40th anniversary now.
Larry, what do you have now? What
I have that 40th anniversary, the 93 Ruby. It's all ruby red interior. But one of the things that I'd like to go back and if you get a C3, which is somewhere around 68 to 82, that's a C3. 81 and 82 are the first years of crossfire fuel injection, but anything before that was carbureted. But boy, I just think about how easy it is when you have HEI ignition, which is the first transistorized kind of ignition, no points to set, how easy it is to work on a carburetor, use a timing light instead of having to plug in. I walked out, my neighbors were watching me on my Corvette last year. I brought my laptop out and I had to check something. I was plugging it in and they're looking at me like, what's he doing? Is he talking to the car? And that's crazy because you get those Corvettes, a guy can walk out, plug a USB cord into it, change the couple of settings and pump the thing up by 50 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know, that's what I was saying about before. That's the lost art of troubleshooting. You know, you plug the computer in. I've done it too. Plug the computer in, change some settings, you're done. And you know what was driving me nuts is one of my Volkswagen Beetles, and you know how simple they are. I couldn't get the thing to start unless I put the charger on it, and I finally figured it out that my points weren't set right. I had to sit there and figure it out for 2 days. What is my battery not working right, or if I got a break in the line to the coil, or no points are just a little bit off, so it wouldn't get that charge jumping, you know, from the point to just that little bit. It's like, you know. So
speaking of Volkswagen, let me tell you, there's two things. And first of all, I think we all really appreciate over the Christmas holidays seeing the marathon of street scene. There's nothing better than being shut in all year and now shut in the winter. Being able to go back and look at some of the stuff you two guys did. It just, I text you all the time, Greg, how much I enjoy it, and a lot of my friends do. The second thing is I've had a fun time watching you guys at the gym's VW meet.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
you know what?
You know what? You want to tell that story, Rick? You want to tell that story? You want me to?
Greg called me into doing that show, and I wasn't a Volkswagen fan. But I'll tell you what, after we did that show, I couldn't believe how much fun I had. The Volkswagen people were great. Whatever goes, you know, that's what I liked about it. You can do anything you want to a Volkswagen. The Volkswagen person will love it, you know.
No, I used to drug Rick kicking and screaming to that show. You know, I have two Volkswagen.
Not a Volkswagen.
I like everything. Everything that goes, any cars. I like everything there is. So, you know, I have two Volkswagens. Like, oh my God, do we have to go down the show and the VW show? I said, trust me, you'll like this. And sure enough, you know, it turned around and everything. You got everything that goes down there.
Yeah, and that was a really cool show.
I'd get just to hang out.
Yeah,
sorry, Rick.
You know, I enjoy. It seems like street scene. I aired I did a marathon 2 years ago, and it got such rave reviews that every year is now December street scene month. So we'll do new shows in the spring, and then during Christmas, we're going to air all our shows again. So if you want to check out any of that, our street scene shows, we have them up on our Armstrong neighborhood channel on the YouTube site. Go back and, kind of look up Armstrong street scene on YouTube, and you could pull up some of our old shows.
How about if they get the Armstrong like in Meadville? How do they pick it up?
Oh, you could go to Armstrong, go to the YouTube site. They're all there.
Okay.
Armstrong, the Meadville system is different. They air different programming, but I just say go to the YouTube site because
that's the easiest way. Okay.
Channel, we have probably 90% of those shows still up there. Some of the old archive stuff I don't have up there, but we're got a couple minutes left. Larry, do you want to say anything coming out and what maybe to look forward to coming up here for another few shows?
As far as like credentials for riding and stuff, I've got an award from BMW, over 200,000 miles on a motorcycle. Roy Dykeman has 400,000, but I belong to the Iron Butt Association, the American Motorcyclist Association.
The Iron Butt, B-U-T-T?
Yeah, I did.
I have a flabby butt situation here.
Yeah, I think I did 1,187 miles in 18 and a half hours.
Wow.
We got to do 1,000 to get in less than 20.
You have to have an iron butt to do that, I guess, huh?
There's guys that do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And I belong to two of the national BMW clubs, the BMW MOA, which is Motorcycle Owners of America, and also BMW RA, which is the Riders Association. But one of the clubs that I really enjoy is called the MSTA, Motorcycle Sport Touring Association. And what I like about it is that it's like what they call hub and spoke event. So they will situate an event at a big hotel. And then, you get there on a Friday, hang out, have dinner, BS with everybody. Then Saturday, you pair up into groups that kind of like your riding style. Hey, I like to go slow and maybe go to the Dairy Queen, or I like to drag my knee going around these bends, so get my hair on fire. So you got a lot of choices of all these funds in that. But I wanted to tell everybody that, if you go to RIDE, RIDEMSTA, ridemsta.com, and go to the event calendar, coming up February 23rd through the 27th is the Big Bend, Texas rally. And of course, that's in Terralinga, Texas. But they have rallies all over the country. And so I'll be going in April to the Shenandoah Spring Romp and Mount Solon, Virginia. I'm revisiting that because 2 years ago, I broke down in a hellacious rainstorm 2 years ago in Virginia. I broke down on a 2-lane road where I could get the tires off the road and the kickstand on the road as people were. It was so hard that I couldn't hear the engine running because the rain was pounding my helmet so hard. I was sitting on the bank trying to call people to get a tow truck, trailer, something. And everything was working good until the deputy sheriff rolled up. And of course, in the rain, he wanted to see my driver's license. It's pouring.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let me sit in the car because I was not safe, or I don't know. But what an experience. So I'm going to go back because I'm not going to, I'm going back. But I want to let you know, ridemsta.com is a great way. It's non-denominational. So they don't care what you ride. They don't care if you ride a scooter, if you ride a super bike, or if you ride a Honda 50. Come on and let's all go and have fun. So that's a good way to get started. One of the other things I'd say is that there are going to be events this year. And as we keep going through, if we have another Street Scene Power Hour before March 9th, I will have a couple of things laid out for Daytona Bike Week. I've gone there so much, I think I own stock in that city of Daytona. But I wanted to talk about Route 1, which is a special, and A1A from Daytona Beach all the way up to Flagler. There's nothing better than riding that shoreline all the way up for about 20 miles, and the moon's up over the ocean, and you got the smell of the salt, and it's just a great time to go back there and just redo the whole thing. So I want to talk about those next time.
I spent 3 days down in Daytona that couple years ago when I saw you down there, and my girlfriend was getting like, ah. I said, come on, let's go back down. Let's go back down. And I
Oh,
loved
yeah.
it.
Well,
I
you know
loved
what,
it. Everywhere you go was something different, and it was just a neat scene,
Well, I can tell you, we're going to have a show we'll have a show in February of Street Scene Power Hour, as long as you guys are.
We can pick Larry
Yep.
up down there with this, huh? Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Rick,
Now, Greg, one of the things I wanted to have you remind, and maybe you don't know, and you can tell the viewers the next time, but this will be up as a podcast, and it'll be on the iHeart podcast network.
yes.
Are you going to be able to tell them? Because I'd like to be able to have people down in Daytona watch this program on their phones.
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna get this will be on iHeart and all the podcast networks.
Okay.
So
And
we'll have
can
this
someone join? I'm not too familiar with podcasts, but can people join us when we're doing this live?
I'd have to have an invite to them. So
Okay, you have to invite them. Okay. Mhm.
anyway, Rick, you want to say anything to wrap the show up? And
I just can't wait for this winter to be over with. I'm just tired of it. I want to go out and see cars. I want to see motorcycles. I just want to see people. It's just like, oh my goodness, this is really disturbing. It's unbelievable right now, and I just want to see all the car guys again. I miss them. I dearly miss them. There's some good people out there, and we have a lot of fun with them. So
I think we will. So you know what? Any questions for Larry, Rick, or me? ArmstrongStreetScene@gmail.com, and we will wrap this show up and look forward to the next one coming up here pretty soon. So you know what? Any questions? Make sure you email us. Anything else we got?
thanks for watching Street Scene Power Hour, huh?
All right. Yep.
And I
We'll
want to thank you guys for inviting me to be a part of this. And I want to thank you guys for all you do in the community. I think so many people live vicariously through watching the car shows through the fall and winter months.
Mhm.
And you really make a difference in people's lives as far as trying to make them upbeat and look for having a little hope that something good is going to happen this coming year. So thanks, guys.
Well, we appreciate it, and we will see you next time on Street Scene Power Hour. What do you say, Rick?
We'll see you down the road. Stay
All right.
safe.